Rev up your engines! DMNZ says, hello from London. What's your opinion of the new Prius, which was revealed yesterday? I was rather impressed. Got a lot more horsepower. It's much quicker, but it gets the same good gas mileage. And it looks good. I always kind of disliked the Priuses because they look ugly. Ugly looking cars, right? All they cared about was aerodynamics. They didn't care if they were good looking or ugly looking. Now they're actually sharp looking cars. You know, Toyota owns part of Mazda, and they made them kind of Mazda-ish looking, and Mazdas always looked good. Think about Mazdas. They made good looking cars, right? The Priuses, they're dependable. You know, if you want to get a hybrid car, that's the hybrid to get. And I was rather impressed by the new design, I have to say. Hey, you want to buy a hybrid, buy one of those. They actually look like a nice car now instead of some boxy little thing. You know, they're much better looking cars, and they have a lot more horsepower, but they still get the gas mileage. So other than the price, what's not to like? I think they're all overpriced though. Joe says, I was driving a 2021 Silverado. I had to step on the gas to pass somebody, and then the differential blew up. I got 22,000 miles on this thing. What a pile of crap. Yeah, well, there's kind of a history with that. For a while, GM started making differentials, the rear ends, just to drive the rear wheels of the truck in Mexico. They kept wearing out. And people thought, well, low quality in Mexico, we all know that. But why? There was a guy in Florida, and what he did was, he got a bunch of old ones and new ones, and he took the wheels and brakes off the back of them and the drive shaft. Then he put a torque wrench where the drive shaft would be, and he'd see how much torque it took until the wheels started to spin, and that would show how tight or loose it was. Now, there's supposed to be a certain amount of torque before the wheels spin, and he found that the original ones, before they made the differentials in Mexico, they had a reasonable amount of torque before they started spinning. But the brand new ones, the ones that had a couple thousand miles on them, that had differentials made in Mexico, basically just swung with hardly any torque. They're just freewheeling. So he takes them apart and finds out they just didn't make them correctly. They made them too loose. Instead of making them nice and snug, they were built as if they already had 80, 90, 100,000 miles of wear on them. So then when they were getting 40, 50,000 miles, the differentials were going out. And if you know anybody with later model Silverados, things have a tendency of eating up rear ends because of this, because they come from Mexico and they're cheap crap. Year-old Silverado and the differential blew up on the stupid thing when he accelerated. It's uncalled for. They're poorly made, but do they care? Hey, it costs us to make in Mexico. We don't care, man. We're making a profit. What do we care if the differentials blow up? We really don't care, you know. We're making money on the top, smoking our cigars, you know, drinking champagne. Well, the poor working guy who buys a Chevy Silverado pickup truck gets stuck. This is why I tell people not to buy them. They have too many problems like that. You don't see the Ford differentials blowing up and stuff like that. They're better made. You know, you make things in Mexico, that's what happens. For Alexa Scotty, I ordered a Civic Type R, which was MSRP 45 grand. When I went to pick it up, the dealer said I had to pay 135,000. What should I do? No way would I pay 3 times of what the manufacturer list price is. They don't make that many of those, and they're just being scumbags, charging that kind of money. I mean, yeah, people pay more, but that's just ridiculous. Just don't buy it. It's your money. You don't have to buy the thing. You want that kind of money? Well, sell to somebody else. It'd be stupid to pay that kind of money. Because if people keep paying that kind of money, they'll keep charging more and more and more. Like the stupid people who buy Teslas. He keeps raising the price. They keep buying them. He has no incentive to lower the price. Although, hilariously enough, he's lowered them in China because they're not buying them in China, so he lowered the price there. They're like 10 grand cheaper in China than they are in the United States. So that just goes to show, if you're dumb enough to pay more money, you're going to pay more. Don't pay it. That's all I got to say. Tiger Stripe says, Scotty, I need your help. I was all ready to buy a 2000 to 2005 Celica when I saw your video. What do you think of the Acura RSX instead? Hell, better choice. Now, see, the problem with the Celicas, the last years that they made them were the crappiest. They cost less. They cost thousands less because they were made cheaper. The best ones they ever made were the mid to late 90s when they were really building them strong. But then they decided we're going to make them cheaper, lighter. Yeah, the Acura would be a much better choice in that age because Honda makes great engines and those are good cars. You know, they're zippier cars too. And they didn't make them cheaper. Unfortunately, the last Celicas were the crappiest and then they stopped making them. Taught them a lesson. Well, we'll make them cheaper. You know, we'll sell them less. And they did charge less. They were cheaper made, but they also cost less. It was a mistake. They should have kept making the good ones. Legend says, Scotty, can you change your brake fluid to the brake fluid reservoir? You have to bleed it out. Well, here's the thing. It's a whole system and it all mixes up inside, right? So if yours is really dirty, first get like a turkey baster, or if you got a suction pump like me, suck what's in the reservoir out. Pour new fluid in. It'll mix a little, suck it out again and pour new fluid. Then go to each wheel and bleed the wheels too. And that's a pretty good to get most of the dirt out of the system. Start by sucking it out of the top a couple times, then do each wheel and you'll get most of the crud out of the system. That's the best way to do it because you don't want to keep pushing the crud that's in the top all the way through, get most of it out, and then the new stuff will be pumped through as you bleed each wheel. George Strobel says, Scotty, what's the best used diesel truck for plowing snow? Well, here's the problem. Diesel trucks are real expensive, so you're going to buy a used one because they cost less, right? You don't want to get one with really, really high mileage. They cost a fortune to fix the engines and trannies when they wear out. You know, you're going to have a very limited choice of what you're going to find out there. Diesels aren't that popular in the United States, but if you can find one that's got one of those old American diesel engines in them, try to find one of those because you look at the late model Dodges, they got diesel engines. They're made in Italy. They're piles of crap. They're now in the third generation. First generation Italian diesel was junk. The second was junk. Who knows? They just came out with the third one last year. We'll see if it's junk or not, but I wouldn't buy one of those. But the ones that had the real American-made diesel engines, those are pretty good. Here goes Z says, Scotty, why is diesel so much more expensive than gas when diesel's cheaper to make? I wanted a diesel car, but the price has swayed me away. All right, yeah, when I was young, the diesel was much cheaper than gasoline because it's cheaper to make. It's easier to refine, right? But here's the thing. We live in a capitalist society, right? Diesel is a more rare product. If it's more rare, they charge more money for it. Kind of the way, like diamonds, you know. Diamonds are kind of an interesting one, though, because they claim like De Beers has all kinds of diamonds and vaults, that if they sold all the diamonds they had, the price of diamonds would collapse. So they artificially keep the diamonds out of the market so the price stays up. They don't want the price to go down, right? Well, in this case, yeah, it's cheaper to make, but there's less of it, so we're going to charge more money for it, and that's the philosophy. Basically, the oil companies can do whatever they want. Once they start ripping people off, they continue to rip people off. That's just the way that they go. They didn't used to with the diesel, and back in the day, it was exactly the same, though. Still had the same amount of diesel in a barrel of oil, right? But now they just decided, well, it's a good excuse to raise the price. Strange world we live in indeed. Next question is, how can you tell if you have a partially clogged heater core in your car? A lot of times they will clog up. What will happen is, if they are clogged up, the return line is going to be relatively cold, and the inlet line is going to be hotter. So if you've got a little infrared temperature gun, non-contact thermometer, and you can get them from Amazon now for 19 bucks and they work fine. Take temperature of the inlet and the outlet. And if the outlet is really cool and the inlet isn't, it's probably clogged up. Then to absolutely positively prove it, you can take both hoses off and you can try to blow through them. And if you blow through and it all comes out easy, it's not clogged. But if you blow like mad and hardly anything comes up, it's clogged up inside. It just won't flow and then you won't get heated. Unfortunately, when they are, you got to buy another one. Some of those dashes, it's over $1,000 to take them apart. So that's one reason. Now, you want to keep your coolant clean. If it's clean, it won't clog up your heater. So if you've got a Toyota, they got 7-year, 100,000 mile coolant. You only need to change it once every 7 years or 100,000. Some cars have 70,000 5-year coolant. Just go by what kind of coolant you have and change it out every so many years or miles. And then you don't have to worry about your heater core clogging up from the coolant being corroded. Legend says, Scotty, why do both my Hondas have a super slow oil leak? It doesn't even drip, but I find a little buildup near the drain plug oil pan. Can I live with it for a while? Of course you can live it for years. Even my Celica seeps a little oil. It doesn't make it to the ground. Who cares, you know? I mean, if you're curious where oil's coming from, it's a very simple process. You get some ultraviolet leak dye. You pour like half an ounce in the engine, drive it around for 10 minutes. Then you get yellow sunglasses and a UV light. They sell kits with that. And then you can see where the green dye or yellow dye, depending on what color it is coming from, and you follow it up, and where it's coming out, that's where the leak is. But if it doesn't even reach the ground, who cares? Everything oozes a little as it ages. Tristan said, Scotty, we bought a nice looking 2016 Honda Civic and Carvana. Do you think it was a good deal? Well, they're great cars. The problem is Carvana usually charges too much. I don't know, you didn't say what you paid, right? They charge way too much, and that's why they're on the verge of bankruptcy, because they charge so much. People are like, those guys charge so much. I'm not going to buy a car from those guys. All they do was buy cars, and they were paying too much. Then they charge even more. Now they're coming down, and so is the Carvana stock. I believe it's down 96% of what it was, a year and a half ago. It's not a very good company. They overcharge for everything. Your particular vehicle, if it runs good, great. But I don't know what you paid. You might have paid too much. Knowing Carvana, you probably had to pay too much because they always charge too much. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.